the Biden administration yesterday notified all the large companies in America, any company that has more than 100 employees, that their deadline is January 4th for full vaccination of their workers. Now, that gives them plenty of time. That's 2 months from now. Today is November 4th. That's a full 2 months. More than enough time for anybody to get themselves vaccinated. You want to keep your job, get your damn vaccine. It's very straightforward. And what this means, and I think it was, I believe it was Anthony Fauci last night on Chris Hayes' show. I could be wrong, but he was on somebody's show and he mentioned this. Pretty sure that's where it was. That when you look at country by country vaccine versus infection rates, what you're seeing with the Delta variant, and see, this varies from virus to virus, right? For example, let me just pause that, hold that thought there for a second, and let me fill in the backstory. If you look at states or counties or even countries that have eliminated measles, to eliminate measles, because measles are 18 times more contagious than the flu, to eliminate measles, you have to have over a 95 or 96% vaccination rate. When it drops below that, you start having local measles outbreaks, as we saw in California last year, or the year before last. So every disease is different. You know, with the flu, it might be quite a bit lower than that. With some other diseases, it might be quite a bit lower than that. With some diseases, it's got to be 100%. They're so highly contagious. Well, what Fauci pointed out was that in those states where you've got a vaccination rate solidly north of 70%, fully vaccinated, what you see is that new cases and deaths are declining rapidly. That's enough when you combine that with the herd immunity from people who actually got infected. You know, we've had over 40 million Americans who've gotten infected and recovered, which provides some immunity. It's not an immunity that is as good as getting the vaccine and the booster, but hey, it's better than nothing. So you combine these two populations, the people who got sick and are immune from that, and the people who got vaccinated and are immune from that, and if 70% of them are vaccinated and presumably another 10 or 15% of them got sick and they have natural immunity, you now have basically stopped the pandemic state or slowed it down to the point where it's just slowly eating through the last little red remnants of the state. Here in Oregon, we're seeing, you know, the worst cases in the states that voted for Trump, or in the counties, excuse me. But, Fauci pointed out, when you look at those states where the overall vaccination rate is below 60%, you're still having a crisis. The hospitals are slammed. They still are in Alaska. They still are in Louisiana. You've got ICUs that are full. You've got, you know, refrigerated death trucks, morgues pulling up, you know, trucks being used as morgues pulling up to the back of hospitals. You got all this kind of awful stuff going on. And so clearly we need to get to that 70+%, ideally an 80% plus vaccination rate for the entire country. Now, one of the really good things that's going to help that is that yesterday the CDC joined the FDA in saying 10 microgram dose for kids. The normal dose is 30 micrograms with the Pfizer vaccine. We got this lower dose for kids, and they're rolling it out today. If you have a child between the ages of 5 and 11, 5 and 12, you can take them right now to your local pediatrician. I'm not sure if the drugstores will do this. I'm assuming that they will, but I could be wrong, so you should double check. But certainly your pediatrician can give this vaccine, and they use a smaller needle, and it's a lower dose, and it doesn't hurt, and the kids will have no problem. So between that and getting every company in America with over 100 employees, and by the way, the companies are loving this. They are very grateful to the Biden administration for this. You've already got, you know, about a dozen companies that have completely mandated vaccines for all their employees. And in New York City, for example, it's not a company, but New York City mandated it. Mayor de Blasio said, that's it, you got to do it. And the head of the police union was like, you're going to have 10,000 cops quit their jobs. How many quit their jobs? 34. With the United Airlines, it was 56,000 employees. And we're going to have thousands and thousands of employees who aren't going to show up for work. How many was it? It was about 100. It was fewer than 100, as I recall. But in that neighborhood. So, you know, the dead enders, they're probably people who are planning on retiring anyway. So this is good news. I think that by the end of, by spring, we'll probably be back to normal.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Or at least a new normal that looks kind of like Asia during the flu season over the last couple of decades, where people just routinely wear masks and are careful. But other than that, here we are.